Proverbs 21:26 says, "He coveteth greedily all the day long, but the righteous giveth and spareth not." Some people are just greedy. They're self-centered and uncharitable. But it's even worse when it comes to the sloth. Here's a person who doesn't work for what he's got, but even after being the recipient of the generosity of others, the sloth will rarely ever be seen helping others. But the righteous giveth and spareth not. So we notice, first of all, that there's this dichotomy here between the sloth and the righteous. In other words, the sloth is the opposite of righteous. He's wicked. The sloth is wicked by nature and needs to be born again, and he is wicked in his behavior and deeds. His laziness, his greed, his lack of charity are all wicked in the eyes of God. But the righteous giveth and spareth not. So we see the contrast not only in nature but in his actions. And while the righteous is a giver, he doesn't give with any sense of pride or entitlement. He doesn't toot his own horn. He just gives. He doesn't have to toot his own horn. People usually learn over time and by experience who the righteous giver is, and in the same way that they actually will learn over time who the sloth really is. One way that people recognize the righteous giver is because such people rarely end up destitute and really in need. For example, preachers will quote Luke 6:38 and teach that this is a promise of God's blessing upon those who give to the church and help in the needy and such. But let's read the actual words of Jesus again in Luke 6:38. "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye mete withal, it shall be measured to you again." End quote. He doesn't actually mention God giving in that text, and says it's men that will give into your bosom. They'll give to those who have been thoughtful and loving and generous to those in need. But notice the emphasis, again, not on God, but we quote, "Pressed down and shaken together and running over, shall men give into your bosom." Moved by God, yes, but also moved by what they have seen the giver do. It's sort of like that pay it forward thing that Coach Woody Hayes preached to his players and students from 1946 at Denison all the way through 1978 at Ohio State. And there was also a popular movie by that title in the year 2000. But the biblical principle is that the righteous is a giver. He's not only paying it forward when someone is good to him, but he's just always looking for opportunities to please God and to demonstrate the mercy of God. He has a heart of mercy and charity. In Luke 10, of course, we all have, most all of us, I suppose, have read the familiar story of the Good Samaritan. And we don't have time to read the whole story, but a man is beat up and left on the side of the road. A priest and a Levite just go around him. They don't want to touch him. Some suppose that, it's because of cleanliness laws and things they use as an excuse, but they just walk right by and leave him for dead. But the Samaritan puts the man up and pays for his care. Now Jesus is talking to a lawyer when he tells this story, which I believe is probably a true account. And he's speaking about loving his neighbor. And in Luke 10:36 and 37, he says, "Which now of these three thinkest thou was neighbor unto him that fell among the leaves?" Because we're supposed to love our neighbor. And he said, this is the lawyer speaking, "He that showed mercy on him. Then said Jesus unto him, Go and do thou likewise." When we have opportunity and ability, we should demonstrate charity. And people should know that it's all because Jesus taught us to do exactly that. I always tell people when they thank me for doing anything, I say it's because of Jesus. He's taught me to do these things to others. Amen.